So, good evening, everyone. Am I audible? Is my voice is audible to you? And I hope my screen is also visible to you. Okay. So, in between, if you face any interruption between the voice or screen means, please let me know. Okay. I hope all good. Okay. So, can we start the today's session? Yeah. Okay. So, last two classes were conducted by Richama, right? So, due to her personal problem, she can't engage in the upcoming session. Okay, so ma'am will join with us after some time. Okay, so far I will, okay, up to that I will conduct the sessions for you. Okay, so from today we'll start the third class, right? So in our project third day session we are going to start, right? Right. So in today's session, whatever things we are going to implement in our project. Okay, so I'll give the overall introduction of that. Okay, so what is the feature we are going to implement in our project? Okay, fine. So in the day three, we are going to talk about what? Authentication. Okay. So fine. Here, can anyone tell me what is meant by authentication? So what this terms actually tell us? What is this term? Authentication. Authentication means what? Okay, now so Lofi Masuk. What about others? What is meant by authentication? Okay, so Fever is telling to verification. To verify what? Okay, like password. Yeah. So I will get the response. Okay, so not the perfect response, but people are trying to get that point. Yes. So what about the project we have already started? Okay, so we already started building one project, right? So in that project, today we are going to implement some feature. Okay, before start writing the code, we should know, right, what type of feature it is and why we need. Okay, so once I taught the concept, later we will start writing the code for that. Understood? Okay. So tell me what is my authentication? Yes. So verifying. So people are telling verifying the identity, verifying the user. Yeah. So here in all of the response, okay. So here in the many of the response, they used the word verify. Right. So what this term is really telling to us? What is meant by verifying? Okay. So here verifying means what? Right. So listen. Yeah. Okay. So that one. Yeah. So listen, guys. Before that, just focus on this concept. Okay. So don't worry about this. Your offer letter or LMS access. Okay. So definitely you will get the offer letter. So our team is working on that. Okay. Everyone will get the offer letter soon, and LMS access also will get within the 2 days. Okay. Right. Okay. So before telling to answer for this question, okay. So first, I'll start with one simple question. Okay. So listen. Suppose you open Instagram or Gmail. Okay. Suppose you are opening any application like Instagram or Gmail. Can you see someone else account directly? For example, let's take example of Instagram. Okay. Nowadays, most of the people are using the Instagram. Right. Now, okay. Now tell me one thing. If you want to log in with your friend account, okay, you don't want to log in with your account, you want to log in with your friend's account. Okay, so can you directly now? log in it. All right. Can you see someone's sales account directly? No. So why can't we see other people account? Because we need to log in, right? Yes, we need password and email. Okay, we need to enter the email and password. Then only we can do the login, right? Yes. So here what we are doing actually, we cannot log in. We cannot directly see the someone account. What we need to do, we need to log in. Okay, what is your friend email ID and password he gave for the Instagram? That exact email ID and password we should enter it, right? So with that email and password, what system will do? System will identify that. Okay, so you are the right person to log in this account, right? So Instagram is verifying us. Okay, so that's what we will call as our authentication. Okay, so listen here. What is my authentication? Okay, the system. Okay, the system means any of the system, any of the application you can take. Okay, so the system is nothing but application like Instagram, Gmail, LinkedIn. Okay, or like a Swiggy or Zomato, food ordering website. Okay, system nothing but our application. Okay, so this system must identify it, right? It must identify the person, means who you are, before giving the access. Once it identified, then we can use that application, right? In Instagram, if you want we can post, if you want we can comment, right? Once we did the login. Okay, this process. Okay, this process we will call it as what? Authentication. Okay, simply authentication is nothing but verifying the identity of the user. Okay, so here the system checks, are you really the person you claim to be? Okay, fine. So in most of the application, authentication happens in two stages. Okay, first is what? First you want to create one account in the one application. Okay, so what is that process? Sign up. Okay, so in the sign up process, what you will do? Okay, so listen, in most applications authentication happens in two stages. One is sign up, another one is what? Login. So now tell me, what is meant by sign up? What is meant by sign up process? What is meant by sign up process? Sign up means what? Yes, first time creating the account, right? We provide the details for first time. Yeah, register, new registration. Okay, so what about others? Yes, yeah. So first time we are providing the our details to the application. Once we provided that, later we can go with the login, right? So sign up is what? This is the first time. Okay, so first time user creates the account, right? For example, in Instagram, if you are taking at the time of sign up, they can ask many field like name, email, and password, right? So what happened internally? Server will store the server will store the user details, right? Fine. Then what is meant by login? Enter the system using the existing account. Okay. So what details already we provided? By using that details, we can do the login. Okay. So here system will verify us using the existing user credentials. Right. Fine. Now the sign up and login we know, right? So the sign up and login. Okay. So this is the feature we are going to implement in our project. Okay. So before that, we must know in detail how these things are happening in the backend. Okay, so in our Instagram or in LinkedIn or any Facebook, okay, in Swiggy or any of the application, we are doing the sign up and login, right? actually in backend what exact things are happening. Okay, that we must understand it first. Okay, so here I'm creating one box. This is nothing but front end. Okay, our UI part. Okay, now along with that we will also have a server. Okay, so now listen, this is what my server. Fine, then here I'll create one more thing as a what, database. So database also I needed, right? Okay, so now this is my database. Okay, so totally three things are there. One is what, front end, another one is what, server. Okay, front end means nothing but our UI part, then we have a server, and then also we have what, database. Okay, so all these three are interconnected, right? Front end and server is interconnected, right? And server will connect with what, our database, right? Okay, now listen, assume one user is there. Assume one user is there. Let's assume his name is what, user one. Okay, now this user wants to use our application. Okay, like assume like our food order app. This entire system is what, our food order app project. Okay, this entire system is what, our food order project. Okay, so now user wants to use our food order project. So listen, first what he needs to do, first he needs to do the sign up, right? Or go with any other application you want. Okay, any application you take as an example. In the application, first user wants to use that application. First what he will do, first what he needs to do, he needs to create one account, right? So what he will do, he will enter his detail in the UI, right? UI means nothing but in every app UI we will see some form, right? For gathering our input details. For example, first they will ask what. So usually form will display like this, right? Multiple fields, name, and then we will provide email, and then we will provide what, password, right? So in that form, user will enter the details. Am I right? Yes or no? User will enter the details, right? Okay, one assume like in this form, user entered his data and then he's clicked the submit button also. Now what will happen? Say listen. So whatever details he entered in the form, it will save it in one response. For example, assume okay, so in our MERN stack, okay, so what we will do means we will send it as an object form. Okay, for example, see here. So assume just we are reading the only the three fields from the user. Okay, keep it simple. In real world, based on the application, these user details will change. Okay, now okay, but here let's for the just for the teaching, I'll take only the three examples. We'll see later. We'll see how we structure this sign up credential in our project. Okay, in our project we are not going to use only these three simple fields. Okay, along with that phone number and confirm password, more fields are there. Okay, we'll come to that point later. Once we got the idea of this concept, okay, once we understood this concept, later we will implement in our project. Okay, fine. Now user entered his name and then email and then password. Okay, now this password will send it to where. Okay, now listen what user is doing. First time he is creating account in our sign up. Okay, first time he doing what, sign up process. Okay, now tell me, so where this detail will be going first? Will it directly go to the database or it will go through the server? Will it go through the server or will it directly move to the database? Tell me, guys. Yes, it will move to our server part, right? So this one we are going to send it as a what, request. So this one we are going to send it as a what, request to the server. Right, so these details we are going to send request to the server. Okay, now listen, now what server will do. Okay, listen, now user enter the data and server receives the data also. Okay, now what server will do mean, okay, how we return the server code. Okay, as a full stack developer we are only creating this server also, right? Now what this server will do means whatever validation logic you return means, you are the developer, right? You are the full stack developer, you are only going to create the server. Like, so how the application want to use a detail, whether the username is valid, whether the given email id is valid, how we will determine the email id is valid, whether that @ symbol and gmail.com, right? So password means one uppercase, one lowercase, and minimum 8 characters. Username should not be like a number, right? It should be in string. Okay, this kind of validation, where we will do this kind of validation in the server, right? Validation will happen where server only, right? So that validation logic, these things will be stored in the server. Okay, this validation will be happen at the server. Okay, fine. Now tell me one thing. Okay, one more question. Okay, all of you try to answer for this. Now password is storing, right? So now here I'm user sending the password. So for example, if user enter the password as a 123 ABC, okay, this is what user entered. Okay, so now my question is, in the database, okay, in the database, password will be stored as an 123 ABC. So here, this password will storing as the same or in any other form. For example, if user entered the password means 123 ABC means, let's store it as it is. Same password will be stored in the database. It's the same string. No, no, right? It will not store the same, because if we store the same password means what will happen? If later our database is hacked by someone, means what will happen? They can easily get our password, right? So this should not happen like this. Okay. So what we will do means we will hash the password. Okay. We will hash the password. Hashing will be done. Means, so we are going to give this input string to the hashing algorithm. Okay. How we return our hashing. Okay. So listen guys, encryption not we are going to. Okay. Encryption means, so we are going to transform the data, right? We are going to transform it. Okay, once the transform is done, if you are doing decryption means we can get it. Okay, encryption is nothing but two-way, means once we change this input value means later we can get it. Okay, by doing the decryption, but hash is not like that. Okay, hashing means only one way. If you hash this password means, so it will be converted to any other string. For example, I'm writing, I don't know how it will be converted based on a hashing algorithm. Okay, how you return the hashing algorithm, based on that only it will be converted. Okay, so now see here, assume this is how it's hashed. Okay, this is what our hashed password. Understood? Okay, now the username and email will be stored as it is, but password will be storing as our hashed password. Okay, now the username is valid and email is also valid, and password, hashed password entered by the user is valid, and then that valid password is converted to what? Hashed password. Okay, now what server will do means server will store it in the database. Okay, assume like this is what user did. User name is what? ABC, and user email is what? abc@gmail.com. Okay, and password is what? This one. Okay, this is what the hashed password stored in our database. Okay, this entire string. This is what his password. Clear? Okay, now it is stored in database. Okay, now once it's stored from the database, what server will do mean, server will send one response. Okay, server will send one response back to the user as a what. Now it's stored successfully, right? Now it will send responses of what user details created successfully with the status code of what 200. Okay, so for each response, server will send that one different status code. As a developer, we only have to write this status code also. Okay, now the details is stored, right? Now it will send the response with the appropriate status code. Okay, now it's stored and then everything problem done. Okay, so now sign up process is completed. Right? Password is encrypted. Sorry, password is hashed and data are stored in the database. Means we created the new user in our database. Okay, this is how it's stored. Fine. Now user wants to use our application, right? Now what he is going to do? He is going to do the login process. Okay, now he wants to do the login. Means user tries to enter the system using his existing account. Okay, now mostly in login what we will do, for example, we don't send the username, right? We only send what email. Okay, we only send what email and then password. For example, assume he sender his email like this. For example, instead of abc@gmail.com, is going to send like test@gmail.com and then one password. Okay, password also he is going to give it as a what. Before that, user gave was 123 abc, right? Now he is giving 123 cdf. Okay, like that different password he is giving. Okay, now tell me. Okay, now this is what the user credential. Okay, now this is what user sending in the front. Okay, in the front end file for the login we have a different ua, right? So in the login form user enter this detail and now he is clicking the submit button. So this one is sending us a request to the server. Now tell me, is there any user is there with this gmail account in our database? Here any user is present with this data with this email id. So this time what server will do? This time what server will do? It will send us a error, right? So what it will do means what server will do means it will check whether this email ID is present inside our database or not. Is any user is present with this email ID? It's not going to check with the password. Okay, it's only going to check with the email. Whether is there any user is present with this email? No, it is not present. So what server will do means if there is no record found in the database with this user detail means it will going to send the responses about error. Okay, so we have multiple status code for that. So we will send us our 400 pad request. Okay, user record is not found. Okay, with the respective status code error will be true. This is what the response. Fine. Now valid emails are getting. Now user is sending its valid email id and then valid password. Okay, so now what will do means what server will do means it will check is there any user present with this email id. Yeah, it is present. Okay, email is so email id, this email id is existing in our database. Fine. Then what about the password? Now listen, password it is not stored, same password is not stored in our database. Instead of that, what is stored? Hashed password means what we need to do? Again, we need to do this hashing. Now listen. So this one when we did at a time of sign up, when user performed the sign up action. Okay. So when user did the sign up, that time these functions are happen, right? Now listen. Same. Okay. Now listen here. Now login. User going to do the login process. Okay. Now same password user is entering. Okay. Now again what we need to do for getting this hashed password? Again we need to hash it. Right? Same. For sign up we did the hashing, right? Same hashing algorithm we should run for this login also. Okay, same hashing algorithm we should run for the login also. Okay, now this time what we'll get, same output only you are going to get. Every time we are running the hashing algorithm means for the same input we'll get the same output only. Right, now we have a hashed person. Now what we'll do means server will compare. Okay, server will check. Server will once it found the email, then login password also it will hash it. Okay, once the hashing is done, it will check whether this hashed password and this hashed password both are same or not. If both are same, now server will send the responses about 200 status code means okay. Okay, mean your request is successfully completed. So like that server will respond back. As a developer we can handle it. Okay, so server is sending this response when we can display the UI as we want. Okay, if server is not responding with the 200 means, if server responding with any other different code means, what we are going to do, we are going to send it as about bad request. Okay, if server is going to send it as a bad request means, instead of that, instead of the home page we will show as what error page means login is not completed. Okay, like that error we know with the help of the status what servers respond, what is the server response. Based on the response we can create the UI. Understand? So what user did in login, user enters the email and password, then server find. So here server is finding user in the database. After that, password is compared. If correct, user is allowed to login. If wrong, login will be failed. Understood? Okay, so this is what we'll call our login, verifying existing user credentials. Okay, so clear. So far it's clear to all. So far it's clear to everyone. Do you have any doubt in this concept? For everyone, it's clear. Shall we move to the next part? Okay, yes, sir. Clear, clear, no doubt. Okay, fine. Now listen. Okay, okay. This is how basically login and sign up process will happen. Okay, now here one concept we are going to implement. Okay, so that's what we'll call it as a what? JWD. So leave about everything. Like okay, fine. Let's keep it. Okay. Now just tell me whether you heard about it or not. Have anyone? Anywhere you heard about this term JWD? Okay. So if you know what is meant by JWD, can you send it in chat box? Can you send your answer in chat box? What is meant by JWD and all? Okay, JSON Web Token. What is the use of that? Yeah. Okay. Now listen. Okay. So JW is nothing but is we will call it okay. JWT stands for JSON Web Token. Okay, so just know the full form. Noise. Okay, I'll tell you what is mean by JW and what is the use of. Yeah, it's used for authentication and authorization only. Fine. So now listen, this is the full form of the JWT. Okay, so JSON Web Token. Okay, why we need this JSON Web Token? What is the use of that means? Listen. Okay, again we'll come to this point. Okay, now listen. Sign up is done. Login process is also done. Fine. Okay. Now listen. Okay, after login. Okay, login is done. Okay, what happens on the next request? For example, listen. I want to get some questions. Okay, or like let's go with our example. Okay, in our food order, sign up and login is done. Now what user want mean? User want to fetch. User want to see some restaurant from our food project. Okay, get. Okay, now this is what user want. User want to get some restaurant detail. Okay, user wants some restaurant in our from our app. User wants to fetch some restaurant. Okay, now he is indicating with the friend. So what friend end will do? Friend end will send a request to the server, right? From server only we can get the restaurant details, right? Okay, now the question is after login. Okay, login process everything is done. Okay, now user wants to get some restaurants in our application. Okay, now the question is after login what happens on next request? Okay, now how this server, okay, how this server know who is making the request? Okay, in the mobile, in the UI, just you are pressing the restaurant detail. Okay, just you are fetching, just you are searching some restaurant. Okay, so you are sending the request to the server. But how server will know you are the person who did logged in? Okay, who you already logged in? Okay, how server will understand? Same person. How does the server know who is making the request? For example, listen, I'll tell you in simple thing. Okay, in the browser, this is what our this is what our friend browser only, but nothing but our friend. Okay, browser is there, and like this. One more thing is that is nothing but here. So like this, totally three things are there. Okay, so here nothing but server. Okay. I'll keep it very simple, and this is nothing but our database. Okay, fine. Now listen. Before that, what we said, we various types of requests are there: post, get request, and then for updating patch requests. Okay, here I'm doing login. Okay, here I'm doing post request means I'm sending some details to the server. That is what login. Okay, so now what server will do at the time of login? Server will check in the database, right? So what it will check? It will check whether the email and password is everything is right. Yes, everything is correct for this login. So what database will from the database what it will check whether this email and password is valid. Yes, if it is valid, mean user form, and it will send us a valid, right? So now listen. So this one will be sending back to the server, right? So now listen carefully. Now what server will do? Server will send this as a what response. Okay, like with any status code. Okay, and with any message what we want to display it, like welcome to our application, right? So this is what we discuss in now in detail, right? Now listen. Okay, next request we are going to send back to our server. So this time what I'm doing, same browser, in the same app only we are doing. Okay, second request from a browser, what I'm doing means this time. Okay, so user sending different request, not the login or sign up. He wants to get some restaurant detail from our applications. he wants to fetch some restaurant detail from our server. So now what he is sending? He is sending only a request, right? But next request. But problem is what? Server, okay, server has no memory. Okay, so if you are going to connect this database also, what will happen? In database, some data we stored. That's it, right? But server is not going to validate it. Okay, server is going to check the data also. What you are sending? You are sending only the request, right? How server will understand whether this user means one by one. So all then do we need to send our credentials? In the real world, like this is what we are doing, no, right? The real world, for the each request you are are you sending your email and password? For example, in Swiggy application, if you are searching the restaurant, when you are going to search it, that time will you send any email or password? Or in Zomato, if you are ordering some food, if you want to see some food, so this time you are doing the, this time are you logging? So for each request, are you guys sending the email and password? No, right? Only one time we are doing the login, one time we are doing the sign up, and after when you want to use that application, that time we are logging. That's it, right? So for each operation we don't need to send the email and password. Okay, how it's working in real world? Okay, so now listen what server will do. Mean server will think like this. Okay, who is this? I don't remember you. Okay, I don't remember you, whether you logged in or not. Okay, because why means here we are following the HTTP protocol, right? HTTP is stateless. Okay, every request will be arrive as what blank only. Understood? The server treat each one as a brand new stranger. Okay, server will not store any memory under. Okay, server will not store like what is the previous request happen, who sent it. Like that, server will not store anything. Okay, server will send every request as a what new one. Okay, unless you give it a way to remember it. Okay, if you want, you can modify it. Okay, to server to remember it. Okay, then the here we have one question, right? How do we prove our identity on every request? That's where JWT comes in. Okay, so here nothing but this JWT is coming as a what solution for this problem. Okay, by using that JWT, we are going to resolve this problem. That's it. Okay, every request for the server, every request is what new request. Server don't know who sent that request. Okay, but we want, if you want, we can make the server to remember it. Okay, so now listen where this JWT comes in. Okay, now listen here, user sending the post, user sending the request. Now let's take this example. Yes, that HTTP means hypertext transfer protocol. Okay, so basically HTTP method will not store anything. Okay, in this server. Now fine. Now login. Same email and password I'm telling. Checking his email and password. Yes, user is valid and send banking request. Right. Now listen carefully. Okay. Now what I'm going to do? Here I'm going to create the JWT token. Okay. At the time of login, I'm going to create some JWT token from the server. Okay. Server is going to, okay, server I'm adding one feature. That is what creating this JWT token. Okay, server has this feature. Okay. Now what will do means now user found, right. Now server won't send only the response message. Along with that, it will send one more thing. Send JWT, JSON Web Token. That also it will send. Along with the response, in the normal response is also send the JW, which is created inside the server. Okay, as a developer, we are only adding this feature. Now the server will send the JWT with that user. Okay, now this token here, this JWT mode JSON Web Token, right? So now this token will be stored in the browser. Okay, now we are sending this token, right? The token will be stored inside the browser locally. In the browser, we have that some local storage area. Okay, in the browser, it will be stored as what local. Now what will happen? Okay, now user sending the different request. Right. Now what will happen? Now in the browser, it has the token. Right. Now if user wants to get the restaurant means along with that each request browser sending that token also. Okay. Each request is coming with what token because it's stored in our browser. Right. So this time what will happen here? Okay. In the server. Okay. For each request in the server only we are going to implement one more thing also. That is what. So here create the JWT token. Okay. This feature implementer, right? So okay, like that. One more feature we are going to add it in our server only. That feature is nothing but checking the JWT token. Okay. Verify the JWT token. Right. So now listen carefully. Now what will happen at this moment? Okay. So we are sending the JWT to the server. Right? So now server will verify it. Is this valid one? Yeah, it's valid. So what server will do? Now server will send back the request. Sorry, server will send back what response like same 200. Okay, with the restaurant data. So now server will recognize the user on every request without storing, without sending the user credentials. Clear? Okay, so we don't need to send the server the user credentials at each request. Okay, it was verified. Okay, who is creating that token? Server only. Then server can verify it easily. Clear? Now you got what is meant by JWT, JSON Web Token. What is the use of it? What is the basic use of the JWT? Everyone, for everyone, it's clear now. It's clear to all. Is anyone having doubt in this concept? Is it clear to all? Please respond it in chat box. Okay. So now listen, this authentication part. Listen, the sign up and login. We discussed this, right? So this is what we are going to implement in our project. Now we are going to implement the authentication in our backend. Okay. So shall we start implement this? Snehal Power. Okay. Now only I explain this JWT concept. Okay. I think you missed it. Okay. So now we don't have a time. much time. Okay, time limitation is there. Okay, so no issue. Tomorrow you will get the recorded session of this class. Okay, by watching the recorded session you can get it. Okay, so for what I taught regarding this, every diagram is related to what JWT only. Right. So on tomorrow you will get the recorded class of this. You will get the recorded video of this class session that you can watch. Okay, so now only I explain. Okay, there's all the diagrams I written. Right? That is what JWT only. Rukmani, you will get your offer letter. So in the chat box, it's already pinned on message. Okay, fine. That I think that message is gone. I guess. Okay, fine. No issue. Listen here, guys. Okay, so offer letter and then LMS access. Okay, so our team is working on it. Okay, soon you will get the offer letter and LMS access. Okay. Subham Mepal, so in the LMS, all the courses you cannot access. Okay. So for this current, for this internship, we have a course. Okay, that specific course only you can access it. Right. So in the LMS, we have a course called MERN Stack Internship B6. In that one, you can access that only that course specific course only. Fine. MERN Stack B6. That's the course you can access. Okay. Okay. So that means your user credentials not stored in that LMS, I guess. Okay. So one thing you do. Okay. So that I'll send one message in the chat box now. Okay. So for this email ID, send your query. Okay. As a request to this email ID here, I enter it. So this email ID, you send it as a what? Okay. For this email ID, you send one request. So tomorrow you don't have a class. Day after tomorrow only we have a session. Fine. Right. So now we are going to implement this authentication in our backend. Okay. So for this we need three main things. Okay. First one is what mean we need to define the user schema. Okay. So what is meant by user schema? Yeah. Welcome, Subham. Okay. And listen, three main things will I'll told right. User schema and then routes and then controllers. Okay. So totally three things we need to create. Okay. So what is in the schema means user schema means listen. Okay. General term we will call as what schema. Schema means nothing but defines how data should be stored in our LMS. Sorry, stored in our database, not LMS. Okay. So if it is user schema means listen, define how user data is stored means listen here at a time of sign up we got as what we from the user we gather only the username email and password right? So like that for each app this user credentials will vary right? In some app they want phone number also right some are more things like in some app they will ask the age also right so for each app this user data will be varied right so what that's what this schema will do okay how we want user data in our application that we will return in this that schema okay then routes means nothing but defining the API endpoints right so how server will understand means listen so here we are sending the what sign up okay so for the sign up we send a request right so in the UI we are sending the sign up but how server will understand we are sending this credentials for sign up process how you are sending this details only for sign up, not for login? How server will understand? Because you are calling that particular API. Okay, so where you are sending this data in API, right? So if you are calling the first API, means just I'm telling, if you are calling API number one, means server will understand. Okay, this is what the code we need to execute. Okay, for API one, it's calling me. For API one, we need to do this set of operation. So if you are calling API two, means for this API we need to do this set of process. Okay, like that server will understand that. Okay, so for that we are defining the API endpoint. That is what we'll call as what routes. Then control. This is nothing but this is the function will contains our exact logic. Okay, this is where it will contain the exact logic. Okay, that sign up, that validation, and login means comparing password encrypt. This is what this controller will do. Okay, so the request will follow this for request, and it will move to the root, and then it will move to the control. Okay, then controller will update in our database how we want. Okay, so since the authentication is about the user, first thing we need is a user schema. Okay, so for let's now start creating the our project. Okay, so all of you please open your LMS. Okay, sorry, all of you please open your VS code now. All of you open. Okay, so Sauraj asking, can you tell about your roads once more? Did not understand. Okay, so listen, see here. Okay, now we are sending the request to the server, right? Now, listen, assume I want to do the sign up process. Okay, now in the front end, I'm sending this request, but how the server will understand whether we want to perform the sign up or not? So listen, when the front end wants to sign up a user, okay, but how does this communicate with the server? Means we are only sending the details, right? Right. How we are sending this detail by using the API request, right? But when this request comes to the server, how does the server know which function should run? Means for the login, we follow this different set of operations, right? For the sign up, we follow different set of operation, right? Sign up means we need to have the password and storing it, but login means different process. Then for getting the restaurant, that is different process, right? How does server will know? Server will have a many functionality, right? I assume 10 functions are there inside the server. How server will under for this request, this function only needs to run. The decision is handled by what? Routes. Okay, so routes is nothing but okay. Routes will decide which function to call to handle the request, right? Simple. Okay, now we are going to create that route also. Okay, right now shall we start writing the code for defining the user model, user schema? First we need to create it, right? How we want to store user details. Now all of you see here, everyone has the model folder, right? So inside this models folder, create one new file as a what? User.js. Okay, so now inside this user.js we need to install multiple packages. Okay, so just type with me. Okay, so later I'll tell you what is the use of this each packages. Okay, mongoose, and then listen for this validation. Okay, so whether we are validating, right, whether this email has this valid symbols like a at the rate and then at gmail.com, these type of validation. For that we are importing one dependency. Okay, and then for the encrypting the password, we need one package for doing the hashing we study, right. For implementing the hashing function we need one more package that also we implemented, that also we are importing. Then jwt, how can we forget this jwt? Okay, so this one also we need to use it, right. For that also we are using that package, right. Okay, done. So now let's start implement this schema. Okay, so what I'm doing means by the help of this mongoose, I'm creating one schema. Okay, so the schema I'm going to store it inside one variable. There is nothing but user schema. Okay, now inside this schema, what I'm doing? Okay, here now inside this place, okay, whatever I'm going to write. Okay, that's the structure how I want to store the user detail. Fine. So for listen, okay, now you guys tell me whatever details every user should have. Fine. How we are implementing in our app, that is different. But what are the basic details every user should have in every applications? What are the common fields for the user? So what are the common fields for every user? Name, right? User is dummy. Every user should contain the name, right? Okay. So what is the type of the name? Whether it's a number? No, it's a string, right? So that data type I'm assigning here. Name is what? String. Then required. Yes, we want. If required I'm giving us a true means this field is mandatory. If user tries to skip this part, user will face the error. Okay. So please enter your name. Okay, so after that what is the maximum length, what maximum length user can give? Okay, that is only 30. So if user tries to give his name more than 30 character means that is not possible. Okay, like that we are structuring it. Name, okay, name cannot exceed 30 characters. So listen here, what I'm doing, two fields I'm declaring. Okay, one is what? Okay, true. If record is true means, if it is false means this will face the error. Okay, now whenever this first value will become false, that time user will get this message as was error. Okay, so if user name is exceeded 30 character means he will get like the name cannot exceed 30 character. Okay, now email type is what? String. Okay, email we should have both, right, number and character. Okay, and then is email is required? Yeah, email also we need. Every user should send the email, right? So if user not sending the email means we are going to tell the user like please enter the email. Then in our application every email id should be what? Unique. Okay, if already email id is presented inside our database means again we should not store the same email id. Okay, if one user is already signed up in our application, okay, so the his email id is already stored in our database, right? If one more person coming with the same email id means we should not store it, right? That's why I'm making this unique as a what? True. Then every email id should be stored in what? Lowercase. Okay, so for that also I'm validating here. Then listen, here I'm calling one validated function. Okay, so listen here, what I'm doing means listen, from this validator, okay, from this validator I'm calling this function is email. Is email is nothing but one of the built-in method. It's going to return any two values. Okay, that is nothing but true or false. So okay, so by using this default, by using this built-in package, I'm calling this email built-in method. Okay, so if the package is not there means what we need to do, we need to write our own logic, like regular expression. Okay, one by one character we need to check whether it's having that at the rate and in the right place, whether it has the gmail.com, like this. Is it the whether email for that email id we have some validation, right? So as a developer we need to write it manually. Okay, if you are using this built-in package means as a developer we don't need to write the validation logic from the scratch. Okay, so this easy email is going to check. Easy email is nothing but built-in method going to check whether this valid email or not. If it is valid email means it's going to return what for. It's going to return as what true. If it is not valid email means it's going to return what false. Okay, when it's returning false, that time we need to send error to the user rate. What is that error? Enter the valid email. Like that we are going to send it. Okay, so if it is true, nothing is going to happen. If it is true, nothing will happen. But if it is false, is email method is going to return false means that time this error message will be thrown to the user. Okay, then after the email, which one we want? Password, right? We need password. So password also combination of what? Number and alphabetical character. So this one, that time also we have to go for string only. Then is it password is required? Yes. Without the password we cannot do anything, right, in this sign. So password also it's required. Okay, if user didn't enter the password mean we are going to tell the user like enter the password. Okay, then what is the minimum length we can set for the password? If user enter the password only one single character, is it valid? No, right? So what I am doing, minimum length I am going to set this as about 6. If user set this, if user send the password, user should send password with the minimum of 6 character. If 5 character is only present, that is not a valid password. Okay, if user is sending 7 character, yeah, that is fine. Minimum length, password should have a minimum length of what? 6. Okay, listen, then here I am creating one more field, that is what select. I am going to give it as what false. Okay, so what is the use of this field means, listen, select false means, okay, whenever, okay, now listen, here we studied, right, whenever you are doing the login process, okay, from the database is going to return this email id. Okay, from server, what server will do at the time of login request, it's going to fetch this user details and going to send it to the front end, right? But listen, now this time all in the single document, right? So this user record, whatever detail is that, all the details will be sent back to the front end. But listen, in every request, whenever you are fetching the user record, every fields will go. But if you are going to write it like this, some field you are going to select it as a false mean, okay, this time what will happen means when you are going to send the response to the front end, when you are going to send this user record to the front end, that time what will happen means this password field will not be included. Okay, for example, at some time for some feature, for some functionality, you need to send this user record to the front end for displaying somewhere, like for example, in the every in applications, once we did logged in, for removing the user in right corner, at top right corner we will have a user profile, right? How it's getting? Because of this user record. But that time do we need password? No, right? So selecting for means we are selecting some field as a false. Okay, so if you are going to send this user record means that time password field you won't get. Apart from that, every other fields it will be written. It will return all other fields, but it won't include the password. That is the use case of the select field. Then one more field I am going to define it. That is what? Password confirm. Okay. So in this password confirm, I am going to type it as what? String. Okay. And this password confirm is required. Yes. Definitely we require this. Then confirm password. Okay. So if it is not included means, so I am going to tell the user like confirm password is required. Fine. And listen, here I am going to do one more validate. That is what? See, by the use of this validator. Okay. By using this validator package. Here I am going to do one more thing. That is what? Here I'm creating one function. Okay, so in this function it's going to return whether the this value, okay, current password confirm is equal with the password field. Okay, whether that password confirm and password field both should be same, right? Both fields are should be same. If it is not same, that time you can display this message. That is what password are not same. Both password confirm and password field are not same. Okay. Snehal Power, you will get the notes in the LMS. Okay, in the LMS, the notes will be uploaded. Okay, so images of this diagram will be uploaded in the LMS. Okay, then here we need phone number also. Okay, because this is the food delivering app, right? So in Swiggy or Zomato, we have a phone number, right? So here for each user, phone number is must. So phone number also I'm going with the string only. Okay, I'll tell you later why I'm going with the string. Okay, and phone number is required true. Yes, phone number is required. Why means listen, I need to do some validation checking here. Okay, because listen, here I'm using the regular expression. Okay, just write this code. Okay, I'll tell you what this code is actually does here. Okay, simple. It's going to check only. Okay, simply it's going to check what whether this string is having only the characters from 0 to 9. If it having any other character means it not allow. Okay, and along with that one more thing is going to check whether it's having only the 10 characters, means 10 phone number, mean 10 number only possible, 10 digit only possible here. That validation we are doing here. Okay, and then we are writing enter the valid. Okay, so if the phone number is not valid one means I'm going to display sort of enter valid phone number. Okay, so here spelling mistake is there. Enter the valid phone number, right? Okay, along with that some more thing. For example, as I already ma'am mentioned, okay, ma'am demonstrated you, right, how the project will work. In the demonstration, if you notice one thing, here we have a admin panel and then a integration also, right? So we need to define. So here multiple roles will be there, means admin will be there or normal user will be there, right? So that roles also we have to decide, right? For example, I am the admin, mean I will also do the sign up and I also have to do the login. If normal user is there, mean that person also needs to do the sign up and then login, right? Then how can we differentiate between the admin access user and the normal user? Mean for that here we are having the one field called row. Okay, so in that role, okay, so how many fields we are going to define? So in our application, three types of roles are possible. One is what normal user, and another one is what restaurant owner. Another one is what restaurant owner, right? And one more person is what admin. Okay, and here I'm going to set default. By default, if any of the user doing the sign up or login, mean that user by default that user will become what. Okay, by default it will become what user, not the admin or restaurant one. Okay, and then for storing the user profile, okay, for that I'm creating field called avatar. Okay, and here we are not going to directly, we are not going to store the photo in our database. Okay, in the database just we are going to, okay, it's image we are going to convert it to the one URL format. Okay, that URL string only we are going to use it. Means image we are going to store it somewhere. That image URL only we are going to store it in the database. Okay, this is the efficient way. Otherwise, if multiple image we are storing in the database, means for fetching the user details, it will take more time. Okay, instead of that, for image we are going to host it somewhere, and hosting URL we are going to store it inside our database. Understood? Right. Now, along with that, some more fields we want. What is that? Regarding the password, whether the password changed, means update also we need to do, right? We need to do the update also, whether the password if your user forgot the password, user needs to update it, right, by giving the forgot password. Okay, that field also I'm displaying here. And password reset token. Okay, so these things you will study in detail when we are going to add more functionality. Okay, so in today's session just we are implementing sign up and login, right? We are not doing any other things. So here we are going to implement more things in our upcoming session. Okay, in today's session just we are implementing sign up and login, basic thing. Okay, but in our upcoming session we will implement more. Okay, so these are all for nothing but whether to check whether the password is updated or not. And timestamp is to mean whenever new user is created, that we are going to store the timing also. Clear? Okay, and listen. And here for here in the same place only we are going to add one more functionality here. Okay, so what is the use of that functionality mean? Listen, I hope am I audible to you. Yeah, so listen. Okay, so sometimes we need to perform some actions automatically before saving data in database, right? So here Mongoose provides something called middleware for us. For example, see here is giving in the schema we have a one middleware called pre. Okay, so here what I'm doing means when saving, when I'm going to save the user for the first time, that time you can run some of the codes. Okay, so listen, whatever code here I'm going to write it, listen carefully. Whatever code here I'm going to write it inside this function. Okay, so this code, okay, whatever code I'm going to type it inside this function, that code will run every time before saving the user. Okay, this will run automatically before saving the user. Okay, so what I am here I'm going to do means listen, whenever user saving in our database means user saving means what? Sign up, not login, only sign up. Okay, when user do the sign up in our application, that time we are going to hash this password, then only we are going to store it, right? So that hashing password logic here I'm going to implement it. Clear? That's it. Okay, right, now listen, inside this function what I'm going to do, here I'm going to check whether this current user is password is modified or not. Which one is modified? Password field. Okay, so what is the name here I return? That same field name here I'm using. Okay, so if the password is modified means we don't need to do any further, we can simply return. Okay, but listen, first time that password we are going to hash it. Okay, for that only we imported what? This dependency why we installed? Okay, why we install this package? To hash the user detail, right? Now for the hashing method I'm calling, and inside that method I'm passing this password. Okay, and how much hashing algorithm, what is the salt I want to give, means increasing number means nothing but increasing the security. Okay, now I'm running this hashing algorithm on this password. Okay, and we don't need to store the password confirm in the database, so that I'm giving the undefined for it. Okay, so now we hashed the password successfully in our applications. Okay, fine. Now let's move to the roots. Okay, as I already mentioned, when we call the, okay, now we need API points, right, to determine whether the sign up or login or logout. Okay, so for that we need to create some roots, right? So that roots I'm going to define it now. Okay, so listen here, inside our roots folder, create one new file as a what, auth.js. Okay, so inside this auth.js I'm going to import our express app. Okay, and here I'm going to recur this. Here I'm going to import this express package, and then from this router only we need to define it, right? So this router I'm going to implement here. So wait a second, guys. Okay, now listen. So from this express app I'm calling this special method called router. So with the help of this router I can call the methods. Okay, basic HTTP method. For example, here if I want to do the sign up. Okay, so sign up is what, in the URL if I added sign up means you can call the sign up control. Okay, so assume here I'm going to call this once I created that controller. Okay, means once I return the logic for the sign up part, that controller I can mention it here. That's it. Okay, so if the sign up, if I want to do the sign up means I'm going to call this API. If I want to do this login means I would like to call this API. If I want to do the logout means I can call this API, right? Okay, now let's start implementing our sign up logic. Okay, so whatever things we need to write it inside the sign up controller, that's what we are going to discuss it now. Okay, fine. Now for this, let's create one new file inside the controller. So listen, so far how many new files we created inside the model? We created one new file, that is what user.js. Okay, and inside the roots we created one more file, that is what auth.js. And inside the controller we are going to create the another one new file, that is what auth controller.js. Okay, so here we are going to import some of the things which we want to do for the sign up. Okay, first we need to import the user schema. Okay, so here we structure the data, right? Here we structure the data. However, user data should look. The structure here we define it. The structure we need to use it for. We need the structure. Okay, so how I'm require means listen, that file path only I'm going to mention it here. Models folder, inside the model folder I have that user file. Yeah, done. Then here I need JWT. Okay, so that also I'm going to mention it here. JSON Web Token. Okay, right. Now for registering the user, here what I'm going to do, I'm going to select the sign up request. Okay, and how, like already ma'am did it right in server.js, how we handled only one request is in the app.js. Here we created one controller, right? So like that same one. Okay, same concept. Here also we are going to define some controllers. Okay, async, and here three things we are going to, two things. Okay, one is what request, another one is what response. Okay, these two things we are going to use. Okay, and inside this sign up. Okay, so what I'm going to do means, okay, so what users is sending from the front end. Okay, so in the front end, whatever details user sending, So these details I'm going to check. Okay, these details I want to fetch it. First of all, this user is already written inside the front end, right? Already this user sending from the front end, that I have to receive it, right? First I have to receive it. Yes. Yeah. So listen, so that's what I'm going to collect. Okay, so from where I can get this means I can get from the request or body. Okay, so whatever details I want to store it inside our database, name, email, and then password confirm, and then phone number, right? Yes. Yeah. Now after this, okay, so what about the image? Okay, so listen, image is not mandatory. Okay, if user not adding the image the sign up means, by default image we can add. Okay, if user sending the email means, yeah, we can collect it. If user not sending the image means, we can add our own one. Okay, so listen, what I'm going to do, listen, here I'm going to check, because here I'm going to check one condition, that is what, if user sending the, if user sending the avatar in his request or not, request dot body dot avatar. Okay, and it is not there means, that time we can check any. Okay, so in our local, in our server we are going to add one image. Okay, and we are going to check whether that local image, which one we added in our server, that is present or not. Okay, so if it is presented means, that one we can use it as a what, avatar. Okay, for the user we can add that one as a what, avatar. Okay, so here I am going to send as our default. Okay, and URL I'm going to use our server image. By default image we have in the server, right? So that I'm going to add it here. Okay, so this one, why we are handling it means, if avatar not provided, or we can add the default avatar. Okay, or one thing we'll do, okay, one thing we'll do, later we'll come to this avatar part. Okay, just what we'll do, just simply we'll create the user first of all. Okay, so let's create a user without using the avatar. Okay, just create. Okay, now what I'm doing, from this MongoDB, from our mongoose method, I'm calling this create method. Okay, so what, when you are going to call this create method, automatically this pre function will be executed. Okay, in the schema we mentioned, right? So this function will automatically execute when you are going to call this create method. Name, and then email, whatever things we collected from the user here, that all these fields we are going to use it here. Then password confirm, then phone number, and then avatar. Okay, now so far still this avatar is an empty field only, later we'll add it, no problem, right? So listen, after this, okay, so after this here, just I'm going to call one method. Okay, that is what, send token. Okay, so for now I'm not going to write this code. Okay, just I'll going to utilize the, just I'm going to, I already written that code, just I'm going to use it. Okay, for sending the token. Okay, so this one I'll, okay, so listen, where I'm adding means, inside this utils folder I'm creating the new file as a send token token.js, and you say that here I'm creating the, here I copy pasted the code. Okay, no, no worry. Okay, this code already it's available in the LMS. Okay, so if you move here, okay, okay, email error handler send token. So okay, whatever code written inside is send token.js. Okay, so that's what you have to copy paste it here. Understood? Clear? Okay, this is what you have to copy paste it here. Fine. So this send token is nothing but function used to create the token and send back to the browser. Okay, so as we discussed, browser will send this request back, right? Server will send the request back along with the token, right? For creating the JWT token and sending it, we are using this send token dot file. Clear? Okay, so this one I'm going to call it here. That's it. Okay, so we need the send token, right? So that's one I'm going to import it here. Okay, so what is the path of this file? Utils, right? And inside the utils we have a send token. So this send token function I'm going to call it here. So we need to pass the user and then set as code and then response also. Is it clear? Okay. Now this one I'm going to use it inside this control. So where I have that roots folder here, right here I'm going to use that control. Okay, how can I use this auth controller? Simple, just import this auth controller file. Okay, just I'm importing this auth controller file. Okay, controllers, inside the controls folder we have that auth controller. Okay, so this auth controller I'm importing, and in that which method I'm going to call, I'm going to call only this sign up one. Okay, so this one I'm going to mention it here. So everyone done this up to this? Is everyone completed the coding up to this? Okay, fine. So now we'll stop our session. Okay, now time is 8:35. Okay, so today we are not able to complete this login and sign up controller, right? But in our day after tomorrow session, okay, in our day after tomorrow session, we will complete this sign up and login control. Okay, and meantime, okay, before coming to the day after tomorrow session, in our LMS, you have that utils folder, right? So see here, you have two folder, utils and middleware. So listen, whatever files. So inside the utils folder, you have a three files, and inside the middleware folder also you have a three files. Okay, so these three files you have to store it inside our project. Okay, for example, listen here, middleware folder is there, right? Inside that you have to store all these three files. Okay, so like that, one more utils folder is there, right? Inside that three folder is there, inside that three files is there. So that three files you need to store it inside our utils folder. So listen, utils folder and the medieval folder should complete it, okay, by using these files. Okay, utils and medieval folder is that, just import it in our project. Fine. So it's clear to all. Do you have any other doubt regarding today's class? It's clear. Okay, fine. So now all of you can leave. Okay, so we will meet day after tomorrow. Okay, Wednesday at 7 p.m. So thank you everyone for attending the today's session. We'll meet day after tomorrow. So good night to all. Thank you to everyone.